Delbert Anderson Yinishye, bit atni nishle, klasche abashichin, kintla cheatni dashache, toda cheatni dashanelle. Hello, my name is Delbert Anderson. I'm from the Diné tribe, federally recognized as Navajo. I was born in Shiprock, New Mexico, and I currently live in Farmington, New Mexico. I'm a trumpet artist and an educator. I grew up in the church, and my aunt and my uncle, they were the bass player and guitar player. And my favorite uncle, he used to play drums. So I was always going to the church early or staying afterwards when they would have rehearsals, just because I was so interested in the music and seeing the drums work with the guitar and bass, and it was just very interesting to me. And in Kirtland, I only lived in Shiprock for about 3 months when I was, a baby. But my parents moved off the reservation, and they put me in school. I believe I was in Kirtland. Yeah, Kirtland. Grace B. Wilson is the name of the school, and I was in fourth grade, and we were to choose an instrument. So part of that, what we have to do is they'll bring in a band and they'll demonstrate the instruments, and the next day we would choose. Well, it was that day that the classical, I think it was a classical quintet, was scheduled, but they had like some conflict happen, and so they were trying to look for someone to demonstrate these instruments, so they got a jazz combo instead, because it was really easy to throw together. And it was a trombone player who was the head guy. And one of the things he demonstrated was, he had all this time they were using music and looking at music, and the last thing he did was he turned his stand around, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, how's he gonna play music?" We were kids, and he just started to go and improvise and solo, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Like, wow, he doesn't need music to make music. And he was saying like, "Oh, music came from inside. This is how I feel." And I thought it was the coolest thing. And so the next day I tried to pick up a trombone, but I couldn't play a note. And the guy was like, "Hey, maybe you should try trumpet," and so I went there and was able to play like two or three notes, and they were like, "I think you're a trumpet player." So that's kind of what I went with. And at the same time, I had my friends bugging me like, "Let's play clarinet or flute because that's where all the girls sit." And so there was all kinds of things going on, but I went with what the teacher said that I'd probably play best, was trumpet. So that's kind of how I started, and stuck with it. Went to um was in the bands, and I wasn't very good from the start. I was like seventh chair, with which was the last chair. And it wasn't until like seventh grade, my middle school teacher, she came up to me and she was like, "You played a piece of music perfectly." And she was like, "I want you to play in front of the class." And so she made me do that. And after that, she was like, "I want everyone to play it like Delbert here." And that was it. That's the only encouragement I needed. And bam, I went straight to like first chair after that. And I started to really get into the instrument and learn a lot, and took lessons, did that whole thing. And by high school, I was playing with the community jazz band at the college. And that's where I got a lot of playing time. And it just really, just that one little, encouragement or spark from my middle school teacher. Her name is Janet Isham. And I'd always remember that morning when I came in, and she was like, "You played this thing perfectly." And that was it. That just like turned me over. And I was a trumpet player from then on. I think the biggest part of my, I guess you could call it, musical upbringing was definitely college. I think college is when I actually got serious about playing my instrument. I would always just play for fun, and it was great. But when I got into college, I had a very good trumpet teacher and jazz teacher. my trumpet teacher. His name was John Kennedy, and he was a studio LA player a long time ago, so he kind of knew the business and had a lot of discipline and on how you need to be to have a music or have a career in music. And my jazz teacher is actually a tenor saxophonist, one of the coolest guys you'd ever meet, and he's the one who exposed me to guys like Lee Morgan, Freddie Hubbard, Blue Mitchell, kind of all in this sort of mid jazz, I would say 50s to 60s era, where a lot of these guys really had their prime. The very first trumpet player I really studied and started to get into was Lee Morgan. And my trumpet teacher or my jazz teacher told me that when I came in and I kind of played a solo for him, and he's like, "You sound like Lee Morgan, or you sound like you have the character of Lee Morgan." And so he told me, "Listen to this album." And so I think it was Cornbread, Lee Morgan's Cornbread album, and I started looking at all the tunes and started, um, learning all the solos that he was playing, and that's kind of where I started to develop a really serious relationship with jazz. And I say college too because that's when I started to take lessons from actual jazz professionals, guys like Bobby Shue, John Faddis, Brad Good. I met all those guys during, college, and I still have great connections with them now. And so, it really opened me up to jazz. And the more history I started to study and um, get into music and meeting, networking in the jazz network. I started to really see this traditional type education that everyone received when they were young, or when they were doing it back then, like jazz jams and just transcribing or buying records and playing along with them. That's the kind of like the old education. And man, I just started to soak all of that up and loved it. And so that's I think moving forward with jazz and everything after high school. I owe a lot to Eastern New Mexico University, and that's where I studied music education and performance. And like I said, the right guys were just there. I had a trumpet teacher who was teaching me music business at a very early age, and he would always have us make our own deals and get our own gigs. And it wasn't a normal uh I guess music education. It was far more than that. So it just really opened me up, and they really made me learn like what I really need to have and take in order for me to be successful in music. So, and it wasn't just classes, lessons, ear training, or all that stuff helps, but the really um nitty gritty stuff that you don't learn in school.